This is hands down one of my favorite disc golf rounds I have ever experienced. So if you have not yet, it offered up so much randomness, so much luck, so much skill, so much interaction from non-players that I love to see. With that, let's get into how the Pro Tour Championship ended and how the entire season came to a close.
Incredible. This is an all-time battle. No way.
All right, so we gotta start off with MPO because it was hands down, I wanna say this without too much hyperbole, but hands down one of the most engaging rounds I have ever witnessed. Now that is not to say this is the best tournament of the year. I don't even think it's top like 4 or 5, but this last round amounted to some of the most craziness, so much fanfare that feels like it's coming from like the NFL or NBA. No, this is actually happening in the disc golf world and I am all here for it. And that is because Gannon was down 6 strokes behind Rick coming into the final round. And just a little bit of background, the entire tournament was structured in a way that the best touring pros had a higher stroke advantage. So if you're Gannon, you start with 10 under. If you're Ricky, you start with 9 under. And then if you barely squeak in, like a Vino or Robert Burge, you start with even. So this may not actually stick as the permanent format, but I think the structure was actually much more engaging than I thought it would be, because for so many players, you can't just luck into a Pro Tour championship. You have to do it with a lot of skill throughout the entire season, and this is a great way to incentivize that. So having said that, it was looking like Ricky was going to absolutely run away with it because he was destructive through 3 rounds with a putter that was more on fire than I think I've seen the entire year. And just in case you forgot, Ricky has won 3 events this year: Crokul, European Disc Golf Festival, and the Preserve. Now obviously 3 wins sounds like it's pretty good, but I think Rick wants so much more, and that's because he has lost 4 events to Gannon. We have GMC, D-Glow, European Open, and Beaver State Fling. So obviously this rivalry kind of feels weird because Gannon is kind of like the new guard and Ricky is definitely the old guard, but the manner in which this final round came to be was just electric. Starting with the claps. I think everyone can say if you are clapping and doing raptor legs in the first 3 rounds of this 4-round event, it's going to come off as a little bit obnoxious and a bit pretentious. But that didn't stop Rick, he kept doing it. And I think if you're Gannon trying to fight for the win, it comes off as very like, come on bro, like let's just finish the round and not do these crazy things, especially because there are not that many fans at this event, especially in the first 3 rounds. But again, with that said, I have a little bit of a bias against Rick, but then hole by hole, it becomes very clear that Rick is not on top of his game and Gannon is playing near perfection. Going 4 under through 5, he turns a 6-stroke deficit into 3, and then immediately after that, Rick follows that up with a bogey. But after hole 6, it became quite clear that Ricky is not feeling it and Gannon is. But just when it seemed like all momentum was going towards Gannon, he hits an early tree on 7, turning that into a par, and even though Rick was basically on the edge of circle 2, he somehow finds a way to jam it in at a crucial moment in the round. So at this point, even though Gannon had so much momentum, it became a true question of, is Gannon truly even capable of gaining this many strokes on Ricky? Because it truly felt like there was no kink in the armor for Rick, even if he did have a pretty slow start. And before we continue on the round, I want to say a crazy stat that is a little bit spoilery. There were 12 stroke swings in this final round, so it was just hectic and chaotic, and that was very evidenced by the hole immediately following, which definitely has a luck factor for both MPO and FPO, but if you are able to hit your gap, it's not that hard of a hole, and Rick totally shanked the shot, turning a very gettable birdie into a bogey, and then Gannon immediately followed that up with a parked birdie. So right after Ricky gained a single stroke, he immediately followed that up with 2 strokes lost. And at this point, I felt pretty certain that Gannon was going to win this because the confidence levels were just outrageous from Gannon. But hole 9 is where this round turned into a legendary round. So Gannon's left with a super pinched off look, maybe 250 feet out, and still being 1 stroke back of Rick, he really needs to make this birdie, and I just timed it, and he spent 75 seconds on this one particular shot, which of course is a huge time violation, and Rick of course follows that up with an immediate time violation warning, which honestly, looking back on it, totally acceptable. You are definitely within your means to do that, but in a moment where Rick was totally floundering, it felt very kind of pathetic, felt like it was like, are you serious? Really doing this right now? And immediately after that, he throws a pretty good upshot, but still 50 feet out. This is by no means an easy birdie, and he jams it in. And just for some additional context, Rick has been doing this clap thing where he claps before every putt that he feels like it's going to go in. Like I said before, it's just a little bit obnoxious when it's in the first 3 rounds. Gannon was doing a clap every moment that he could when he had a great drive or a great putt. And to go along with that, his caddy Matt was yelling, "Let's go, G!" immediately after every good shot. And this may be total fabrication, but at least from my perspective, this feels like a total jab at Rick, who, if you are not familiar with, has had one of the most infamous caddies. I don't think she's actually caddied for Rick this entire season, but she is incredibly infamous for yelling after Rick putts. And so it felt so fitting for Gannon to do this immediately after given a time violation warning and frankly having to rush his putt, but immediately after he jams in that putt, he runs to the next hole and he continues to do this for the entire duration of the round, sort of just to keep pace of play, but also I think just as like an intimidation factor. It was hilarious. It was funny. It was engaging. It was like, okay, this is crazy. This is happening at the Pro Tour Championship, but this is true gamesmanship in a way that I have not experienced on tour. And you can tell how truly fired up Gannon is. And frankly, I am all here for it, because if people truly have that complaint that Gannon is boring, he's slow, well, at least to me, he has proven to all those haters that no, he's not boring. He is electric in these high pressure moments in a way that nobody else truly is. And then basically the only blemish on the rest of his round was a birdie putt that went deep and he missed the comebacker. After that hole, it seemed like Ricky was losing any sense of flow state, which is almost crazy to say because he did card 3 birdies on the last 5 holes, but it just felt like game, set, and match because Gannon is truly not one of those players that will give up anything. And so even though the ending would feel incredibly hype, it kind of felt like the game was already over. Gannon ends it with 4 birdies of his own, and he finishes 1 stroke better than Rick, securing his first Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship and netting himself $35,000. And at least speaking from a fan perspective, I think this win meant more for him from a player perspective and what he is truly capable of, more so than the money, because he has earned $200,000 on this current season, marking 10 Pro Tour wins this year, obviously becoming one of the best disc golfers of the entire sport. There truly hasn't been dominance like this since peak levels of Paul Macbeth, and I think if you look back on it, I think this era is just better. There has been no C2 putt that he seems to be afraid of. There has been so many pinched off looks where he's putting from a knee or has to throw a super crazy Anheuser forehand, but no matter what the challenge is, he seems to overcome it. And like I said in my last video, I'm all here for it. This is what greatness looks like. He finishes that final round at 1077 rated and finishes the event 1065. Now, obviously, having said this, Rick had a phenomenal event, just a pretty lackluster final round, losing a total of 7 strokes on Gannon. Now, it's not to say that nobody was even close to him. Casey and Emerson scored 8 under on the round, so it's not like the round was untouchable, but in the moment, with all the gravitas attached to it, I truly do not think anybody else on the Pro Tour could have done what Gannon did today. And it was only made that much sweeter with the true gamesmanship, having to rush every single putt, every single drive, knowing that he might get stroked on time, and his caddy sort of kind of making fun of Rick's caddy. It truly all amounted to some of the best disc golf I've ever experienced. So again, like I said before, if you haven't yet, be sure to watch the Jomez, but here's what Gannon had to say.
Absolutely incredible. Honestly, coming into today, I felt okay because I know a lot of people didn't think I could come back from that deficit, and you know, just going through the round, making some really clutch shots and then falling back a couple strokes toward the midsection and then clutching up at the end to go birdie on the two of the hardest holes in the course is absolutely incredible. And my goal is to break 200,000 for PDJ earnings this season. It's pretty crazy, you know, to win by 1 stroke. I had 1 stroke coming into the tournament on Ricky because of my work the entire season.
And then Rick pretty bluntly just followed that up with a very honest interview that I did not expect, because it was kind of just going over, hey, you got second on Pro Tour Championship. Like, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I don't really have much to say besides very frustrated, and yeah, all the emotions still hitting me right now. It's very frustrating to end like that. Obviously, Gannon played really well, but being in the situation I was all that matters is holding the lead and didn't do it, but that's disc golf sometimes. So
this video is sponsored by Vessi. I had the amazing opportunity to play some of the best courses in Germany, and let me tell you, Germany is wet. It was constantly raining on me, and the thing that made all my rounds feel so easy was my storm burst. So whether it's rain or shine, these shoes are designed to keep you cool, dry, and ready to perform. So if you want to get your own Vessis, go down to vessi.com/wildruns and get 15% off your first purchase at checkout. I guarantee you will not go wrong with the storm burst, low top, or high top. They truly feel like the best blend of high performing and high traction shoes you can get in the market, so look no further than Vessi. So truly all these factors amounted to some of the best disc golf experiences I've ever had as a fan. But with that, what do you guys think? And with that, let's go to FPO. With the final putt of FPO looking like some Silver Series event where like no one was there, definitely leaves a weird taste in your mouth, and it makes me wonder, like, is this event still gonna even happen? And it's like not part of the PDGA. It is totally run by the Pro Tour. But with that, for the last time this year, let's get into FPO. And pretty quickly, much like MPO, it became very obvious who was going to become in the running after a couple of rounds, and that was Missy, Kristin, and Ohn. And this seems to be a very repeating trend where all these 3 players are fighting for the win, but yet again, I feel like Kristin is just so so off in kind of a weird manner, lacking confidence, kind of rushing her drives, and it seems like her ability to hit lines and hit gaps, especially in this wooded course, was just not working out for her. But because Kristin's skill floor is so high that it actually doesn't even really matter, she is still very much in the running to win this, and so even though her putting didn't look phenomenal, even though it felt like she was hitting every single tree, she still starts the final round only one stroke back of Ohn. But because this is the Pro Tour Championship and Missy never gives up, never seems to falter one bit, she nearly finished 11 under on her third round, which would have been 7 strokes better than Kristin, leading to her beating 1 stroke back of Ohn and tied with Kristin. And starting this round, I felt like Kristin's woes were just on full display the first few holes, with nothing really clicking for her. There was a lot of missed putts, a lot of missed drives, and so even though she does card the birdie on 3, it felt like this was just not going to be the event for her to win. But on the flip side, Missy was throwing amazing and then kind of bad, but never neutral, having 0 pars through 8 holes. With 6 birdies and 2 bogeys, it felt like this is going to be a Missy win for sure. But there's so much going on with Nevin that any single hole can just blow up your entire round, and that felt very true for Silva, who despite being on lead card was so far back that it was effectively like she wasn't even there. And I really don't even know what to attribute that to, because she is a phenomenally accurate player and she can throw and putt with amazing distance. So I think it was more so just nerves and feeling kind of uncomfortable on this wooded course. But despite clearly having some of the best rounds to start out, she finishes with only 2 under, which was 7 strokes back of the winner. But a player I have not mentioned yet is Ohn. With his course matching so much of her skill set, it's no surprise that she was dominating and clearly could hit so many lines here that no one else truly can with her crazy Anheuser forehands. So despite Ohn never making a C2 putt on the entire day, she was 100% from C1, which was slowly catapulting her towards first place with an amazing 6 under through 11 holes. It felt like we were definitely going to get a battle between Ohn and Missy, because even though Kristin was doing decent, it felt like she was just not clicking the way that she needed to, despite being very close in scores. But I want to reiterate, Kristin did not have a bad putting day. She only missed 2 circle 1 and only 2 circle 2, but you could very much feel throughout this entire tournament that her putting just wasn't locked in, it wasn't confident, and it felt like there were so many moments where she felt like she was trying to like rush and go a little bit too fast, and she was looking towards Silva to be like, what do I do here? And I feel like we never see that level of indecision from Kristin, so it was very weird and kind of shocking to see that. And so it's no surprise that she didn't play amazingly stellar, and I truly don't think she is a great woods player. I think her baseline is just so good that she is able to really fight for the win, even if it's not truly her skill set. And I haven't really mentioned it yet, but so many putts that Missy had this entire round were by no means gimme putts. It was edge of circle putts again and again, and those are very stressful, especially on this Nevin course, where so many of the holes have a huge hill immediately after, so if you do miss, it's going straight down, probably 45 feet, and you're probably going to miss that. But time and time again, I felt like Missy had no concerns with putting, and even though she was able to pitch up for so many of these holes, making it just a tap in, it felt like she was really taking the reins on the entire event. And so we get to hole 15, Ohn and Missy are actually tied, and then Missy totally misses her drive, and it somehow bounces right up to the bullseye, and Ohn follows that up with a terribly missed drive, but she does not get a lucky kick, and so she's super out of position and turns that into a bogey. So after that, Missy is leading by 2 strokes, and there's just no world where Missy gives up anything on these last 3 holes. So with that, she wins her 3rd Pro Tour Championship, marking $105,000 earned just on Pro Tour Championships, which is honestly unbelievable. And second place was actually kind of a crazy toss-up, because Kristin had like a circle's edge putt, and Ohn had truly one of the most shanked shots I've ever seen that somehow goes an inch over the signs up to the bullseye. She is totally shocked. I'm shocked. It makes no sense, but Nevin seems to give us so many holes that have incredibly lucky breaks. I don't know how it does it, but with that incredibly lucky shot, she turns that luck into a second place finish, tying her with Kristin, which effectively was a $4,000 shot, because second place was $20,000 and third place was $12,000. So they both split $16K, and Missy takes home $35,000. And here's what Missy had to say.
I mean, it's just an amazing way to cap off the year and a great season, and I don't know, I feel so comfortable out here at Nevin. There's a lot of those pushing hyzers, and that's just kind of my bread and butter. And I knew it was super close, but I was behind for a little bit there, and I knew I needed to make up some strokes coming down the stretch. And again, nothing's ever certain on Nevin, and you just never know what's going to happen. So I was, my heart was racing all the way down to that last throw, because you just, again, nothing's ever guaranteed. And
I think this whole event was good to watch because it was very close, but you can tell the fans weren't there. It seems like everybody was watching USDGC and not really this event, which obviously makes sense. This course is not nearly as fun to watch. I think spectators have a lot fewer options to watch this course because it is so wooded, but I think overall this tournament just doesn't really know its place, and so it's kind of trying to find what it looks like. But especially for fans coming from USDGC, which is truly one of the most hype events of the entire year, this one definitely feels a little bit lackluster even though payouts are so incredibly high. But with that, what do you guys think about this whole event, and do you think it needs to be restructured for next year? I would love to know. And what do you guys think of MPO? I honestly think it was the most hyped final round I have seen this entire year. But with that, be sure to subscribe. Wild Runs, signing out. Peace.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you just got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.